Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky with the good hair, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and also click the bell because you do want to be notified when I drop new videos. So I wanted to talk about Donald Trump today and how he is extremely against the First Amendment. So what sparked this was a comment I got on my YouTube channel from a Trump supporter, and they attempted to argue without any evidence that Trump is in favor of the First Amendment somehow. Still unclear on that. But the person came to one of my videos that was about Joe Biden. I can link it up there so you can go and watch it. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden or anything, but this Trump supporter somehow seemed to think that just because Biden is bad, that means Trump is good. And he was spamming my YouTube channel with comments about how leftists don't understand how wonderful Trump is and nonsense like that. We commented back and forth a little bit because I didn't know at first that he was a Trump supporter. He told me he wanted me to react to a certain video and I had no idea what he was talking about. So we put a link to it. And it turned out it was a Trump ad. And I said, ew, no. Trump is disgusting and I'm not gonna give that video a view. So no thank you. He said that Trump is a good guy. And I said, no, he's not, obviously. Within the comments, I said that Trump is a fascist because he is. And that has become extremely evident. And I'll put links in the description below to articles about what's been going on within the last couple of weeks. Trump's speech at the Rose Garden, we all know how that went, with Trump ordering the tear gassing of peaceful protesters so that they could get out of his way so that Trump could do a photo op at a church, holding the Bible upside down. What would you call that if not him being a fascist, wanting to be a dictator? I don't know what you would call that. He said that Trump is not a fascist. He said Trump is the opposite of a fascist because he defends freedom of speech. All right. Trump has never been in favor of free speech. Trump is in favor of his own speech and only speech that is also in favor of Trump. And that's it. He is not in favor of any disagreement. He wants to shut down any disagreement. And he's not in favor of protesting when it's something he doesn't agree with. Trump is not in favor of the First Amendment, period. That event, when Trump gave his speech in the Rose Garden and then ordered the tear gassing of peaceful protesters so that he could go do his photo op at the church, that was the most clear illustration of Trump being against the First Amendment. Within the speech, Trump talked about law and order and how he was essentially going to crush the protesters by calling in the military if he needed to the states to shut down the protests. He claimed it was only the looters and the rioters, but the police clearly don't care if you're peaceful or not. We've seen evidence of it. I can put compilations in the description below that people have put together of all the examples of police brutality that we've seen over the last few weeks when people have been peacefully protesting and they've been tear gassed, they've been shoved to the ground. Protesters have been beaten with the police officers' batons. People have been run over by police cars. Obviously, the police officers don't care about the protesters' right to free speech and the right to peacefully protest. The police officers don't care. And Trump was threatening to get the military involved. And you know that he doesn't just mean the select few looters and rioters. We know he means everybody. He wants all the protests to stop. And we know that's what he means. Trump having those peaceful protesters tear gassed was a war crime. That was a war crime. It was illegal to do that. That is taking away their First Amendment by brutalizing them. Another lovely example of how Trump is completely against the First Amendment are these two tweets that he put out recently. So Trump was talking about Drew Brees, and Drew Brees had originally talked about how he wasn't in favor of his fellow football players kneeling for the national anthem. And he didn't think it was appropriate. He didn't think it was appropriate to, disrespect the flag by kneeling. And then when he got a lot of backlash, he did end up apologizing and saying that he was wrong. So Trump is talking about Drew Brees and the fact that Drew Brees apologized for his original statement about how he was against peacefully kneeling for the national anthem before a football game. So Trump said, "I am a big fan of Drew Brees. I think he's truly one of the greatest quarterbacks, but he should not have taken back his original stance on honoring our magnificent American flag. Old Glory is to be revered, cherished, and flown high. We should be standing up straight and tall, ideally with a salute or a hand on heart. There are other things you can protest, but not our great American flag. No kneeling." We've established that Trump is not in favor of peacefully protesting in the streets. He's not in favor of peacefully kneeling in the form of protest before a football game during the national anthem. Obviously, we know most people, but including Trump, are not in favor of looting and rioting. How can you protest? He's literally against the First Amendment. Kneeling during the national anthem and peacefully protesting in the street are protected by the First Amendment. They're totally legal in America. And Trump is just completely against it. Completely against it. You can be against the speech that protesters are promoting, but you can't say that you're against the expression of the speech that's anti-American, that is un-American, that's anti-free speech. And then the last example that really drives it home for us about how deeply Trump feels about his anti-free speech stance. He's had the stance about not kneeling for the flag for a very long time. He's also had the stance I'm about to talk about for a long time. And he's just been doubling down on these ideas. A couple weeks ago, Trump had a call with the governors, and the audio of that call was leaked, and so we were able to hear it in all its glory, I guess. And Trump was completely unhinged throughout the call. And during the call, he decided to bring up flag burning and talked about how horrible it is. Trump talked about how we shouldn't be allowed to burn the flag at all. So I'm going to read a quote from him to you. Just a reminder, I'll leave in the description below all the references that I have used for this video. This is what Trump said. He said, "We have a different court, and I think that it's time that we review that again." And he's talking about flag burning. "They wanted to crawl up flag poles in Washington and try and burn flags, but we stopped them." And Trump is referring to the protests that are going on in response to the murder of George Floyd. He's saying that it's good that we stopped the people from burning the American flag. Trump continued and said, "They weren't able to do it. They would have done it if we didn't stop them. I think it's time we relook at that issue. Hopefully the Supreme Court will accept that." Trump thinks that we should outlaw flag burning. He thinks that we as American citizens shouldn't be even allowed to burn the American flag. Whatever your stance is on burning the flag, whether you're offended by it or not, that's completely protected by the First Amendment. You may not like it, but that is 100% free speech. If you outlaw that, that is a slippery slope, man. If you can't burn the American flag, what's next? You're not allowed to burn books about American history? What's next? You can't do that. No matter how offended you are by the speech itself, the speech is protected, as long as it's not inciting violence or attempting to harm somebody. That's a slippery slope, man. If he's trying to fight for banning flag burning. I also want to remind everybody, Trump expressed jealousy a couple years ago towards Kim Jong-un, the dictator of North Korea. He was jealous that Kim Jong-un's citizens are forced by law to honor Kim Jong-un. Trump said that he wished that Americans would sit up at attention when he speaks, like the North Koreans do when Kim Jong-un speaks. Trump wants to be a dictator. He's against the most important amendment. He's against the First Amendment. Trump is against free speech, completely against it. The only speech he would allow is his own, and anything that is in favor of him. And that's clear. If you're a Trump supporter, I hope that you see the light someday, because your president is anti-American and he's against the First Amendment and free speech. So think about that in November if we have an election. I mean, things are so crazy, who knows what's gonna happen. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will leave links to articles below, which were the sources that I referenced in this video. Before you go, make sure that you're subscribed and that you click the bell so that you're notified when I drop another one. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.